Opening up the show with Kai Janine coming through. Waliwatu is the name of this particular song, coming from the Burundian singer and musician. And we haven't really heard anything from her in quite a while. So I am hoping. In fact, I haven't even checked in, with Kai Janine by way of Google to see what's going on. Is she still around? Is she still? What I do know, though, is that she's probably likely firmly in some kind of retirement at this point in time, because she is around 64, 65. But as to what she's been getting up to, I have no idea. That is Waliwatu is the name of this particular track. And of course, it was released back around 1992, if I'm not mistaken. That is how we open up the show on this fine Wednesday afternoon. I hope that you are having a splendid day thus far. Midweek, the time goes so fast. I don't know where it's all galloping to, but it's definitely going just so fast as we approach the final stretch of the week. There's so much coming through today. We're looking at the power of African creativity. Our time is now, they say. Africa, your time is now, as Papama has boldly stated in all of her apparel merchandise. And we're catching up with Raymond Langa, who is the group chief executive of Ligus Delany South Africa. And we're going to unpack that conversation. Also coming up, we're going to be catching up with a young design creative for Made in SA. And she is the designer behind Mother of Goa. We'll find out more about her journey, her story, and of course, her brand. On the other side of 2 o'clock, we tried to have this conversation last week, but, we had to do some rejigging of our schedule due to us taking a live event. And so we want to talking to teenagers about sex. And this is really a household parenting conversation. And we want to get some advice for parents as to when, how, and what you say when it comes that time to talk about all things sex, because that conversation must be had. You know what I mean? And we scheduled it after 2 as well, perhaps to give you a little bit of a segue, because the kids will be in the car, they'll be in the house. So you can just continue it from where we leave it. At least we would have opened the door for you to have it with your children. And then we're also going to be talking around how to cope with survivor's guilt. That's coming up later on in the show. Still lots more conversations coming up after 2, and we'll touch base on that closer to the time. 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on. 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line. Let's take a quick break.
Come test drive the new Ford Territory, the family SUV with a spacious interior, 5 partial leather seats for your family, and a 12.3-inch touchscreen. Get yours at launch prices from only 590,000 Rand, including an optional service plan for a limited time only. Get to your nearest Ford dealer and test drive the new Ford Territory today. T&Cs apply.
The SABC Fortune Combo radio stations, which includes SAFM, Lotus FM, and Radio 2000, seek the services of a freelance graphic designer who will collaborate with cross-functional teams to create visually compelling assets that align with our receptive brand identities and resonate with our target audiences. The minimum requirements for the position are a bachelor's degree or diploma in graphic design, visual arts, or related field, 2 to 4 years proven experience as a graphic designer with a strong portfolio showcasing a range of design projects. All interested candidates should submit their CVs and portfolio of evidence to vacancy@safm.co.za. Application close on the 26th of May 2024. For more detailed info, visit www.safm.co.za or follow us on our social media pages at SAFM Radio.
SAFM, leading the conversation. SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes.
The president says this advert is treasonous. Why do you believe it's wrong to show an image of our flag burning?
Firstly, in the past we never had something called a nation, and that nation today is united in diversity through a flag. Struggles were waged, people were killed, people were jailed, just for us to have a flag that unites us in diversity. Elections must be about contestation of ideas and policies, not a desecration or to destroy national symbols, things that unite us as a people even beyond the 29th of May. We must still be united because we come from a very divided past. At least that flag is something that unites us.
Zizi Kodwa, thank you very much indeed, sir, the Minister of Sport, Arts and Culture.
SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes, 6 to 9 a.m.
The Road Accident Fund will be announcing winners of the Road Safety School Competition and Youth Projects to be supported by the fund. In August 2023, RAF launched a comprehensive road safety program for learners and youth. And this program involved educating learners in primary schools, special schools and high schools about road safety through talks, industrial theatre performances and, of course, road safety simulations. The event will be held in Durban on Friday, the 10th of May. And for more information, you can call RAF on 087 820 1111 or visit www.raf.co.za.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
It is The Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga. Our guest, Raymond Langa, is patiently standing by. And, of course, you can catch him on our live stream via our social media platforms at SAFM Radio. And he's the Group Chief Executive of Ligus Delany South Africa. Today we're wanting to have a conversation around looking at the continent's rising influence in the global creative landscape. Whether we're talking about fashion, film, music, tech, it seems as though African talent is very much leaving quite the mark on the world stage. Good afternoon to you, Raymond. How are you doing today?
Good afternoon, Bridget. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us in conversation. It doesn't matter which category of CCIs we are looking at, from fashion to music to tech. It just seems there is something right now that is driving the African creative. And hence cementing their place on the global platforms, for every respective industry. What can we attribute that to?
I think it's us changing the narrative and starting to believe in ourselves a lot more and stopping the stereotypical narrative of looking to, in inverted commas, the Western world for inspiration, but rather looking internally and working collaboratively to solve problems in a very innovative and creative way. I think far too long we've looked outside of the borders of our continent to get the relative support. But I think the biggest and the most wonderful thing for us is how complex we are as a continent and especially specifically as a country here in South Africa, the complexities just from the different cultures that we have here. Now imagine when you bring the whole continent together. So I think in my opinion, the biggest value that's derived from all of this has just been a significantly larger collaborative approach in terms of how we can solve our complex issues. Because I think it all starts at home. And I think coming in from the outside in, we've seen numerous amounts of companies and institutions think that they can come into our continent and it can be business as usual. And quite a few of them don't manage to succeed. So I think we've now realized that, we need to start at home. And I always say to people that we must stop exporting Africa to the world, but we need to bring the world to Africa because once we sort out our home, I think we are the center of it all.
Yeah. And would you say that, Raymond, this speaks to perhaps even a generational mind shift? Or is it just sort of a culmination of so many things that have found this moment to be the moment?
I think it's we are 30 years old. We celebrated that a couple of days ago, and I think what we've done is that generation is now 30 years old. So we are at the very pivotal point in our young adult lives. That this is the fantastic opportunity for us to showcase our talents. I think before us, there's been a significant amount of struggle that has allowed us to get to this point of collaboration. And I think where we are is that we're now in a position where we're taking different cultures and different backgrounds. Our parents and, you've got the millennials generation and then you've got the boomers above them, where now you've got all these different contexts and different ways of life that are all coming together in this constantly evolving world, and now we're using all of that to solve solutions. And I think what's really exciting, and I'm glad you started the segment, that we're not being specific to where we are in the creative industry, but we're using creativity to solve real problems. So to answer your question, I think it's a combination of everything at once. But I think we're finally at that point where we're actually collaborating with the different areas so that we can move forward.
And when you talk about sort of African creatives using that creativity and innovation to solve global problems, on this platform we sit in conversation with so many remarkable Africans who really are sort of steering those ships and coming up with innovative ways to plug in and lend solutions to world issues. And I'm thinking even countries, for instance, like Kenya, who lead in the space of innovation, who lead in the space of tech. And a lot of people aren't even aware, and I wonder the genesis of such things in those countries and what's made them so successful, given all the challenges also.
I love that you brought up that we're not aware. I think that is our biggest issue. What's very scary for me, I can't remember the young man's name, but there's a young man that was at one of the schools in Johannesburg where he's now leading a project to go to the moon. But he's African. He went to school in Johannesburg and he got an opportunity to go to NASA, and now he's the head of that project. That is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's some, I don't know the term, but they're doing work on the moon. So this is one of us. This is a child of Africa that's being exposed to the world and putting on the global front. But one thing I think we've maybe haven't done to the best of our ability as Africans is work collaboratively. We've isolated ourselves from South Africa, not working very closely with our neighboring countries, with not working closely with the northern parts of the continent. Yeah. I think that's something that we all need to be better at. We all need to start collaborating more and start being one continent and trying to solve collective issues together. But one thing I would say is that technologies had a big influence. We've been in the last 30 years. We've been part of a world that's been evolving so quickly. So now we have access to information. So now it's a lot easier for you and I to find out what's going on in Nigeria just through the use of the internet. There are many social media platforms that we have access to. So now we actually have a slightly better understanding of our neighbors and in terms of what they're going to and the bigger problems that we're all collectively needing to solve. And the best thing for me around this is how we all go about solving these challenges. A lot of the times, especially once again, inverted commas, the Western world, it's always money thrown at the problem. We don't have such luxuries in our continent. So we have to be innovative and we have to find extremely creative ways with, number one, how we communicate, and number two, and just how we solve our issues. And I think the complexity of our issues are really fantastic. And I'm glad you brought up Kenya. Because in Kenya right now, the biggest challenge for them was getting medical supplies into the more rural areas. So you've got Doctors Without Borders that can get themselves there, but they don't know what's wrong until they actually arrive at the various locations. So once they get to the locations, now how are they going to go about getting any form of medical supplies there? And once again, what do Africans do? We're creative in solving problems. Now we've got drones that are actually flying all medication or whatever is needed from the source to exactly where the doctors need it, so we can actually help people. And this is not something that's been brought in from different continents or anything like that. This is all being developed here at home, here on our own continent, just in terms of showcasing that we have ways of solving problems if we put our minds together and we make sure that we're doing it for the right reasons.
Absolutely. And I think, what you sort of, the example that you bring up there, for me also speaks to the concept of necessity is the mother of all opportunity and invention.
Yes, 100%. And that's what we say to people, that because we are so young, number one, as South Africans, and the second part is because our issues are so complex compared to anywhere else you would look at in the world. We are forced into that position where we have to be as creative and not follow the textbook per se to solve all of our issues, because the textbook doesn't exist for us. We haven't had a blueprint in terms of how we go about doing life, so we're constantly figuring it out as we go. But I think what the biggest blessing for all of us as Africans has been in the last couple of years, I would say the last 3 to 5 years, is just that power of collaboration. I think we've lowered our egos a little bit from country to country. It's still there, but we've lowered them a little bit. There's still a lot of work to do. And the most important thing for us is we're trying to do it together. And that for me is the most important thing, because I'm a big believer for everyone that works for me and in anyone that's in my life is collaboration is to the key of unlocking the world's greatest tools.
Absolutely. Let's take a quick pause here, Raymond, and allow Madupi to give us the headline news, and then we'll come back on the other side of this. Somebody just walked into Raymond's life and decided that he needs more light in his life, and he tried to protest, and the individual's like, nope, we're going to give you some more light. We love it. It's 1:30. It's time for the headline news.
Very good afternoon. With the news headlines, ke Modupi Makgalemele. Western Cape Premier Alan Winde has thanked all those who've been assisting in the rescue and emergency response to the George collapsed building tragedy. President Cyril Ramaphosa has described the 30-year review of South Africa's democracy as an honest and critical appraisal of the country, and the Constitutional Court has probed the Labour Party's council on whether it would be fair to South Africans for the court to order that elections be postponed. Details of these and other stories at 2.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
We are in conversation with Raymond Langa, and he wrote a piece interrogating the power of African creativity in biz community, and we're unpacking his thinking a little bit more, and obviously, just understanding where African creatives find themselves right now. And when we talk African creatives, we talk across a plethora of different sectors and fields. And there's some countries that have been doing exceptionally well in their respective industries. If you were tracking the conversation from its beginning stages, you obviously know countries such as Kenya have been doing really well from a technology perspective, alongside Rwanda, even, our backdoor neighbor there, Botswana as well. Of course, not barring the challenges that come along with us being within a developing continent. And of course, we also know if we're looking at, sort of entertainment sectors like film, for instance, Nigeria has held that spot as the second largest film industry in the world. Sometimes it's contested by India, but Nigeria has held steady. And I think
it's a numbers game.
It's a numbers game. And, Raymond, for me, that often speaks as well to, given all the challenges that we face on a day-to-day basis, because the race is not equal for Africans versus, other societies. And yet, with determination and, as you say, that collaborative spirit, things can be done, and ultimately South Africans, by and large, will take their place on a global stage. You look at Nollywood, even we criticized it as South Africans. Even we thought it was a joke as South Africans. And yet they kick our butt consistently.
They do. It's exciting. I love Africa. I've got an immense amount of passion for our continent, and I'm a big believer of our potential. I'm not the biggest fan of the word potential, but I'm a big believer of our potential. And I think we all have to come to the realization that a lot of our very talented individuals, specifically in terms of how we go about creativity across the multiple sectors, have had to leave their various countries across the continent due to the many, many complex issues that the majority of our countries have on the continent. Which is totally understandable, and everyone's got a different circumstance. So what I am trying to do is just try to to start having the conversation about how wonderful Africa is and how fantastic she is as a continent and the people of our continent because of everything that we're capable of. And what I love what's happening over the last couple of years is that we're actually having our African people shining on the global stage across multiple sectors, whether it be film, technology, fashion, you name it, there's an African representative that is absolutely flying and not necessarily just taking part. Yeah. They are flying, and that's the most important thing. And you use you look at examples like what they've done with movies like Black Panther, right? Now there's this fantastic sense of young people are starting to believe, because when you see somebody that looks like you then believe that it is possible for you, because we've had so much time in the world where scientists, film stars, superheroes, queens, kings looked a certain way, and they didn't look the way majority of African people look. So who did you have to look up to? Who did you have to aspire to be? And that is shifting drastically on a daily basis. There are a lot more people that are at the forefront that the youngsters coming through can look at and actually start to believe in. And what's really powerful about that is we're allowing the youngsters to express themselves in ways that a lot of the generations that before us didn't get the opportunity to express themselves in. And what we started to see is when people start to express themselves, no matter what field, magic happens. And the minute they start to realize that, okay, wait, this so-and-so is also expressing themselves, I'm also expressing myself. What if we have a conversation together? What will come of it? And that's why I'm so adamant about the power of collaboration and what we can create. And once again, I said it earlier, but the biggest thing for me is I want to stop taking Africa to the world, and I want to bring the world to Africa.
I love it. On a parting shot, you say that this is not just a moment, it's an entire movement.
Yes, it is an entire movement. And the reason why I say it's a movement is that I can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. We have to do it collectively. And the most important thing is it's about shifting that mindset, right? It's about shifting the mindsets to let people know that we're allowed to as well, and we're allowed to be great, and you're allowed to be great. No matter what your background is, no matter where you've come from, you have a voice, and we want you to express yourself in the best of your ability across multiple sectors, across multiple industries. I'm very fortunate that I get to express my emotions through my businesses in a creative way, in terms of I get to communicate with people on a daily basis. It's my job. I'm very, very lucky to be able to do that. So what I'm trying to do right now is my biggest passion is growing the African continent and growing us as a collaborative continent. So I'm using my skill of communication, and I'm hoping that there's 1 to 20 listeners that are tuning in today that take a little bit of inspiration from this, and that we constantly all move forward and make Africa the home that she's supposed to be.
Absolutely. I love it. Raymond Langa, we appreciate you taking some time to be in conversation with us. And he's the group chief executive of Ligus Delany South Africa. And of course, that article is out on Biz Community if you want to read it at your leisure. The power of African creativity. Our time is most definitely now. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come right back and get into Made in SA.
Support Slipper Day on the 31st of May and help children like me fighting life-threatening illnesses to reach their dreams. Visit reachfordream.org.za and make a difference. And don't forget to step into your slippers on Slipper Day. Reach for a Dream, inspiring hope. This is an SABC-supported initiative.
Durban is yet again ready to welcome thousands of delegates and buyers who will be attending the Africa Travel Indaba at the Durban ICC from 13th to 16th May. The Indaba, that attracts delegates from across the globe, is the continent's leading travel showpiece. Hosting events of this magnitude continues to position Durban as a business and holiday destination of choice. Durban Tourism, together with community tourism organizations and local businesses, are eager to showcase that indeed Durban has more to offer. Durban is on the move. Join us at stand DEC 1G50 Durban is Africa's leading festival and event destination according to the World Travel Awards 2023.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
All right, it is time for us to get into a conversation with a literal creative now for Made in SA.
Made in SA with Bridget Masinga. The Chill Zone with Bertha Charuma.
I was about to ask,
Yeah.
is there anything like normal jealousy?
Yeah. You know what? There definitely is. I think ideally, that's actually what we would term more being territorial, or what we would term being a bit of insecurity. Jealousy is when it gets to a point where it starts being overbearing. You know, you get to a point where you're now irrational in your thoughts and in your behaviors. So I'll give you an example. If somebody, a total stranger, takes a look at your partner as you're walking past, insecurity is you thinking, hey, what is this guy doing? And, you know, and that's all there is to it.
Linda Yende, relationship coach.
Bertha Charuma. Fridays, 8 p.m. to 12 a.m. Made in SA with Bridget Masinga.
All right, it's Made in SA, and we're talking to a literal creative now. You know, most for Made in SA, we tend to talk to creatives. She's a designer and founder of Mother of How. And she came in here, she's like, Bridget, stop it. Katleho Mukwana is joining me now, and you in sustainable fashion.
Yes.
Okay, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. All right. Talk to me about, it's quite the buzzword right now in the fashion industry, this concept of sustainable design. What does that look like for you and the brand that you're building?
So for me, sustainable design is centered around natural dyeing. So I take plants, food waste, and create color on my textiles. So in order for me to do that, I'd have to get organic textiles, meaning that they're biodegradable. So even if you feel like you don't want your garment anymore and you throw it away in a waste fill or something, it's gonna go into the soil and not affect the environment in any way.
Oh, wow. Okay. So then, what kind of fabrications are you using? Are you using linens or that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's 100% linen, 100% cottons. You can use bamboo.
Okay.
And most of them are produced locally.
I was about to ask you, Katleho, to be honest. Okay, so if you're looking at 100% biodegradable, especially for the fabrications, the dyeing components I almost get. That's an interesting technique, but going back to nature, I'm sure that's even so much more fun. Yeah. But from a biodegradable fabrication perspective, how easily accessible is it to get your hands on these things?
It is accessible.
Is it?
But the issue is the pricing around it.
Affordability.
So it's quite expensive for you to get your hands on those textiles. So which it would mean that the product that you're going to make is going to be quite expensive for your customers.
Yeah. And then how does one get around that as a young designer? Because obviously it needs to make sense to the business, right? So how does one sort of position or strategize around that?
I feel like there is a niche for people who do buy sustainable products. So they buy fabric clothes that are made from 100% content in the fabric. So there are there is a customer base around that, and I guess you'd also have to explain the product to the people who are interested for them to understand why is it that I'm charging you that certain amount for the product.
Yeah. I mean, sorry.
No.
For me, it's I think it's the way to go, right? Because when we talk about consumerism, when we talk about ethics in fashion and design, oftentimes fast fashion is the enemy of all people.
Yes.
It makes economical sense, but it doesn't make environmental and sustainable sense. So designers who go back to these kind of ways of doing business, I think also in this time, are endearing themselves far better to consumers, right? Because consumers are a bit more conscious now. They're a bit more alert about what things mean to the environment.
They are quite informed about it. I think this is why also people are going towards slow fashion. And one trend that I've noticed is like the thrifting trend. Like people tend to thrift more instead of buying clothing.
Yeah.
So they would rather buy clothing that has been used so that they don't like over consume clothing, just to get rid of the whole fast fashion situation that's happening right now.
Yeah, I like it. Slow fashion. Your aesthetic is also quite fabulous. It lends itself to what I call the rich aunties. That sort of relaxed, polished, resort kind of vibe. Talk to us about your sort of your design eye. Because I mean, it's quite beautiful. We on her Instagram page, by the way. You can go have a look at the Instagram page.
Thank you for that. So Mother of Khao is me.
You are Khao's mother.
I'm Khao's mother. So basically, when I thought about designing for the brand, I just thought about things that I would wear, and I like things that are just like flowy, away from the body, but also look a bit cute, like revealing some parts, but not everything. So I guess in a way, I just design clothes that I want to wear and then give them to the public.
Yeah. Now, how does that work out from a business perspective? Because it's always interesting with creatives. Some will go, I do things that, I started them for me and I like it and I loved it. And then my customers were like, no, wait, like we like this component, but we want you to do it this way.
Yeah.
So how's that working out?
Right now, people love my aesthetic. They love the clothes that I'm making for myself, but for them. So I haven't really come across anyone who has said that I should change something. But I'm actually lying. Someone said to me that they don't want like a balloon shape because they don't think it will like suit their body. But then I offered them like a solution and they loved it.
Yeah.
So it does work, but I guess it would differ from person to person depending on how they view clothing and how they want certain clothing to sit on them. And they just ask me to like tweak a little bit of things, and I don't really mind doing that.
Then let me ask you this, because obviously so much of your product manufacturing and sourcing, is steeped in sort of ethical foundations and sustainability, which almost puts it in a niche category because you can't volumize at when you're making bespoke things. Where do you sort of see the business positioning itself in 3 to 5 years? Are you still going to stick to being a niche bespoke brand,
I don't think I'm going to stick to it entirely because I have noticed that it is quite difficult for me to do the bespoke like throughout, because some people can't really relate to it. And it makes it easier for me in production to make certain items that aren't so bespoke. They're just like ready to wear.
Yeah.
But I know that the ethics of producing the garment is not harming the environment or harming anyone while we're doing it. So I don't think it's going to be like the natural dyeing all the way, because it's like quite a very intricate process, and for the business it wouldn't make sense for me to just stick to it. So I don't think I'm going to stick to it throughout. It's just going to be like that small element. It's basically going to be like what's the word I'm looking for? It's going to be not accessible to everyone. If you can afford to buy it, then we'll make it for you to order.
Okay. And a lot of retailers, actually, a lot of big retailers are moving in that direction as well, where they're sort of weighing, mass production and manufacturing versus the sort of niche corners in their retail stores, and they almost framing it as conscious design, where you go to then get the stuff that makes you feel good as a retailer and makes them look good. But I think there's something for an independent young designer, and there's definitely a market for the stuff that you do in the way that you do it.
Yeah. Because I feel like for retailers, they might say like it's conscious, but it's still mass produced.
Yes.
And people are still like, there's still a wastage of clothing. So is it really conscious if like
it's in 100 stores?
Yes. And
Yeah.
it acts the same way as like the fast fashion stuff that's being produced.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I was not putting it in your head for you to steer away from your sustainability ethos, please.
No, it's not that. It's something that I have actually thought about, especially after SA Fashion Week and the fact that I've been getting like orders and people asking me for stuff. And I'm like doing production all by myself right now. So it's been quite hectic. So I saw that certain things I need to just tone it down and just keep it minimal without it being like going the natural dyeing route, but just like focus on making clothes for the people.
But yet again, you know, we just had a conversation around African creatives and innovation, and the one thing that we've seen particularly within young African designers, whether we're looking at Lucanyo Ndingi, who's also quite big on sustainability and his practices and his manufacturing, and even like the old techniques that he's using in his garments, going right down to the actual woman in the actual village who's still weaving. People are willing to pay a premium price for as long as they understand that story and they can connect it back to Ukoko Kumalo, who's literally, you know, spinning the linen for you in the Eastern Cape.
Yes.
I don't even know if that's where they spin linen.
They do. I think it's really important to have like your niche market to understand the person who would actually invest in buying that type of clothing. So there is a customer base for it. Hence I say it's easier if you do it as like a made to order product rather than just like producing it and putting it on the market, because you don't really know if they are going to buy it or not. And I think another thing that will help you target the market is by marketing yourself well and telling that story well enough so that when they receive it, they know why exactly it is they're buying into that garment.
Absolutely. I bring him up deliberately because the other day someone debated his price point, and then we had to tell the story of when you sit in conversation with him and he says X, Y, and Z on top of the international accolades, and people are like, it justifies why now a t-shirt costs your child's tuition. You know, and then from a resorting perspective, is there a market for resort? Because it leans towards there, what I'm seeing on Instagram. It's let's go away and have a fabulous tropical summer somewhere.
I mean, there is a market for it. I'm hoping that there is, because also this was my debut collection. I haven't really been like I haven't really exposed the brand in that way. I would normally just make things that people will come to me and say, oh, I want something like this, and then I'll just make it for them. But now I put out my clothing, you know, on the runway. So I am hoping there is resort for it. I'm just waiting for spring, summer to actually come around, because now it's getting a bit chilly. And I'm guessing people are like skeptical on getting the more summery products right now because of the weather. But yeah, it's definitely a resort. And I am just hoping that there's a market here.
No, there is. We'll be there. We'll be all over your DMs. For anybody that wants to be in contact with you, I know you're on Instagram. Tell us the points of contact.
So I'm on Instagram. I do have a website that I just launched recently. There's my email there if you want to send an email. If you want to purchase on the website, you can purchase on the website. And then my contact details are also on the page.
Give us the URL of the website. Is it just motherofgau.co.za?
Yeah, it's just motherofgau.com.
Oh, .com. You see,
Yes.
you see, global perspective. This is what we like. Motherofgau.com is where you can go if you want to get yourself a garment or two from Katlego Mukwana. And of course, you can also find her on Instagram at motherofgau is her handle. If you want to also have a good look at the aesthetic that she creates. It's really beautiful clothing. If you've got plans for a summer vacation or a spring soiree or something of the sort, definitely. And the sustainability component of it as well is something to be celebrated. Conscious design is what she builds it. All right, it's just gone 10 to 2 o'clock. It's time for us to get into Kids Corner.
This program is brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives.
Good day, everyone. My name is Amunga Zumiana. Have I ever been bullied? Yes, I have experienced bullying in the past. It happened at school during break. I think bullies are often found in places where children gather, like schools, playgrounds, or even social media. To reduce bullying amongst children, I believe we need to teach empathy and kindness in schools, encourage open communication and reporting bullying incidents, provide support and counseling for both the bullying and the victim. A fair punishment for a bully would be community service, counseling, and apologizing to the victim. Bullies has a significant impact on a child, which includes low self-esteem and confidence, anxiety, and depression. I hope you guys learned something new today.
Hello everyone, my name is Jonaka Maliasi. I'm 10 years old. I live at Middleland Zone 7 and my school is Sumbezo Primary. I experience bullying at school. I find bullies mostly at school. We can reduce bullying amongst children by teaching them how to love each other. The fair punishment to bullies is to report them to Childline.
My name is Lubanzi Singwane. Unfortunately, I have been bullied and I experienced bullying a lot at school. I think you mostly find bullies at school and maybe where you live sometimes, but usually it is at school. To be honest with you, in this generation and in this world, there is nothing you can do to reduce bullying. To be honest with you, I think a bully's fair punishment is nothing at all. In my honest opinion, I don't think we should punish bullies. Bullies have been bullied. So maybe we can offer help. We can maybe try and take them to some therapy. Maybe they have problems that they don't want to talk about. And when they bully other people, it's them basically maybe running away from their problems, or it's them getting the attention they've always wanted, or it's just them having that little power that they never have at home, you know? So I feel like instead of punishing them, we help them.
Hello there, Misha Mangai, and I'm 11 years of age. Learners must learn to respect each other and do not discriminate due to different races or religion. We need to help kids to understand what bullying is and also know how to stand up to bullying safely. If you're bullied, report to a trusted adult. Try to be around others in safe areas at break and lunchtime. They need to be briefly disciplined. Yes, they need to help to understand that they are hurting other learners' feelings.
My name is Rafur Pedaratogwa. I think that we can reduce bullying by helping the bullies to stop bullying other children, because bullying is bad and it is not good. I think that to the children found bullying other children should be punished. Yes, I think that some bullies need help, because some of them become bullies because they have been bullied too.
My name is Dudwetang Ndlovu. I go to Macaulay House School. I think we can reduce bullying by teaching more about bullying and what could happen to you if you do that. I think if someone that you know is a bully, just ignore them if they say something rude, or go and tell a teacher. I think they should not be harmed, but if they bully someone, they must have their parents brought to deal with their child's behavior. Yes, I do think some bullies need help. They need help where someone can sit down and talk to them.
My name is Bahamadi. I'm 12 years old. How I think we can reduce bullying is you have to tell someone if you're being bullied. You might not want to do this because it means showing that you are vulnerable and that you are letting someone to get the better of you. But really, it is very important to tell someone, otherwise it may not stop. Speak to a friend, parent or sister, uncle or aunt, and most importantly, if this happens at school, speak to your teacher. How I think we can protect each other from bullies is to be a team and stand up for one another. This will show shame to the bully. What I think should be done when children are found getting bullied, they must be disciplined. I think some bullies need help because I think they might be suffering from depression from their past but hiding it and taking the anger out of someone. The kind of help the bully needs is for an adult to speak to him so the bully feels open and talks about why he's doing this without hiding his or her emotions.
Hi friends! Today let's have a chat about bullying. I do understand that it may not be the most exciting topic, but it's incredibly important for you to grasp its significance. Bullying occurs when someone intentionally mistreats another person repeatedly. It could involve teasing, physical aggression, spreading rumors, or purposefully excluding someone. It's definitely not a pleasant experience. When someone is being bullied, it can cause a lot of pain. Just imagine feeling scared to go to school, not wanting to spend time with friends, or constantly feeling sad. That's what kids who are being bullied often go through. It can make them feel isolated, unhappy, and as if something is wrong with them. Nobody deserves to feel this way. Being bullied can make it difficult to concentrate on schoolwork or enjoy activities like playing with friends or pursuing hobbies. It's like a dark cloud hanging over everything. However, don't lose hope. You can make a difference. For example, if you witness someone being bullied, you can be a superhero by speaking up and informing a teacher, parent, or another trusted adult. And if you're the one being bullied at school, remember that it's not your fault and you don't have to face it alone. Reach out to someone you trust and share what's happening. You deserve to feel safe and happy, just like everyone. Together, we can create a kind, amazing environment for everyone at our school.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives.
Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAFM. Leading the conversation.
Top stories at 2 o'clock. Premier thankful for the George building collapse response, and the Israel-Hamas ceasefire talks continue in Egypt. A very good afternoon. Western Cape Premier Ellen Windy has thanked all those who've been assisting in the rescue and emergency response to the George collapsed building tragedy. Besides the first responders, community members, businesses, churches and individuals have stepped up to assist. They're providing food, water, and even counseling to the rescue workers and the family members of those affected. Wendy says he's grateful for everything they've done. More than 200 emergency services staff are on the scene. At least 7 people died in the incident. There are hopes that 39 people believed to still be trapped in the rubble can be rescued. President Cyril Ramaphosa has described the 30-year review of South Africa's democracy as an honest and critical appraisal of the country, presenting both light and shade, progress as well as the challenges. He was hosting the launch of the report led by the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation housed in the presidency. The document is the 5th of its kind since 1994. It makes 26 recommendations on what needs to be done to meet the goals of the National Development Plan by 2030.
It is a vital reference for anyone who wants to understand the last 30 years and for everyone who wants to look into our future. It is our hope and expectation that this report will be studied in detail, and not only the 400 pages but the 1,000 pages, and that its findings will be applied.
Looking at election news now, the Constitutional Court has probed the Labour Party on whether it would be fair to South Africans for the court to order that elections be postponed. The party is seeking relief in the form of a postponement of the May 29 polls after it failed to upload its candidate lists by the IEC's March 8th deadline. It is seeking direct access to the Constitutional Court for urgent intervention. The Apex Court previously heard that 35% of parties were unsuccessful in uploading their documents. Justice Stephen Majid asked this question to the Labour Party advocate Chris Loxton.
Are you going to say to the people of South Africa, with the economic malaise that we have, with the severe financial constraints that we have, that it is fair to spend over R500 million to postpone these elections because 35%, maybe as high as 35% of parties, but at least the three before the court, couldn't use a system and tried to do so at the last minute, couldn't use a system where so many others did. Is that fair, Mr. Loxton?
Both the young and old from all corners of Mpumalanga are queuing for healthcare services being provided by the Phelo Phepha healthcare train in Mbombela. The train uses existing rail infrastructure to deliver vital healthcare services. It's targeting mainly rural people who otherwise would not have access to a doctor or even be aware that they have a health problem. The train provided by Transnet provides services that include mental health, dental care, eye care, and general health care. Cancer screening is also available, as well as a pharmacy. Some of the people come from as far as Bushbuck Ridge and Nkomazi. And talks aimed at securing a ceasefire and a hostage release deal in Gaza have resumed in Cairo hours after the Israeli military stepped up its bombing of the south of the territory. Negotiators from Israel and Hamas are at the discussions. The BBC's Yolanda Nell.
We're really at this important moment in the talks. We have got now gathered in Cairo alongside the mediators from Egypt, Qatar and the US, a delegation from Hamas and from Israel, although the mandate for the Israeli team appears to be limited to see really if there is any possibility for a new agreement. You know, this goes back to what happened on Monday when Hamas agreed a multi-stage ceasefire and hostage deal, and Israel said that that didn't meet its core demands.
The top story at 2 o'clock, Western Cape Premier Alan Winde has thanked all those who have been assisting in the rescue and emergency response to the George collapsed building tragedy. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhalemele.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Hello, your choice hotline. Hi, I need you to help me make a choice. Well, with Ford, you get to make your own choices. Like on a new Ford Ranger, Ford Puma, Ford Everest, and the Ford Tornado bus. There's a flexible deal for every budget at your nearest Ford dealership today. Limited time offer. Your Ford, your choice. T&Cs apply.
At Specsavers, we're committed to offering affordable and professional eye care. That's why we're offering 1,500 Rand worth of savings with our winter promotion. Get a free frame up to the value of 1,500 Rand or use the 1,500 Rand on one of our leading lens enhancements. To qualify, simply purchase a comprehensive eye examination and prescription frame and lenses. Book online or call your nearest store today. Specsavers, for affordable eye care and a whole lot more. T's and C's apply.
Miss South Africa 2024 entries are now officially open. And if you're ready to answer the call and become the next Miss South Africa for 2024, your time is now. Step into your power and embrace your future. Remember that entries close at 6 p.m. on the 8th of May. So that's today. Today is your last day. Log on to missa.co.za or download the Miss South Africa app now and enter.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Unjengengoma ngishaya ubusuku bonke ngiyokwenzenja ngaphandle kwakho yewe nawe ingoma yewe ingoma yewe ingoma yewe ingoma Ndizikhathalelana ukuthi ubani uthini andinamsebenzi oh ngiyamthanda baby
njengengoma yena engishaya ubusuku bonke yokwenzenja ngaphandle kwakho ingoma wena ingoma wena ingoma wena ingoma wena ingoma any time of the day, any day of the week, any day of the year. Oh, uyadlisa babe, uyingoma wena shaya ubusuku bonke yokwenza njani ngaphandle kwakho uyingoma yeah uyingoma wena uyingoma wena uyingoma wena uyingoma wena music's tender song to me, a relentless song engandiniki buthongo ingoma endiyithanda nanini na ngoma wena wangena kum wenza umzimba wami ikhaya lakho watsho kum ngaphakathi deep inside of me. Oh ngoma ndini wandiphatha ndaguquka soze ndiphinde ndive into enjengalena. Oh sithando sam uyingoma uyingoma wena ngoma wena uyingoma wena ngoma wena ingoma ezilapha kumbe emzimbeni ingoma emnandi ingoma engasikiyo ingoma engasikiyo wena uyingoma wena uyingoma wena uyingoma wena uyingoma oh ingoma engasikiyo ingoma engasikiyo.
Not me and my crew right now looking at visuals of Tokyo on the TV and then getting into a whole conversation about, military coup leaders because he's giving with the beret and the scarf and the dark shades. It's all jokes before anybody catches feelings. It's all jokes. But he's giving, that look, that aesthetic right now. Oh, Tokyo. Anyway, let's get into the second hour of the show. That was Thandiswa Mazwai coming through. Ingoma is the name of the song. And by the way, she's in concert. She's introducing her brand new body of work at a show this coming weekend at Carnival City. So if you are in a position to get down there, I don't know whether or not I think actually the show is sold out, if I'm not mistaken. I do think that the show is sold out. So let me not peddle lies, but she's going to be at Carnival City this coming weekend on the 11th, and then at the end of the month she's headed down to Durban at the Playhouse, and then in July, on the 20th of July, she's going to the Cape Town Artscape. So those are the dates thus far. She did tease on social media though that she wants to play a big top arena. And so who knows, maybe somewhere in between she'll make her way to the Sun Arena. In fact, she teased that she wants to fill out a stadium, not even a big top arena. She said she wants to fill up a stadium. So maybe she will head to a stadium in the weeks in between. It's just gone 10 past 2 o'clock on the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, right here on SAFM, leading the conversation. We're going to get into a conversation now around getting some advice. Talking to teens about sex and advice for parents on when, how, and what to say and why it's important to say the things that you must say in that conversation with our guest, who's a postdoctoral researcher from the University of South Africa. Ayobami Adekola is joining me now. And this is oftentimes a very difficult conversation for any parent. And I love the fact that Ayobami is a male and we get to have this conversation with him. How are you doing this afternoon?
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for having me here. And good afternoon to the listeners too.
Thank you.
I'm feeling good.
You're feeling good. Fantastic. I love the fact that we get to have this conversation with a male scholar because I don't know, but I feel as if dads and uncles are always the ones that are running away from having a conversation about sex. They're always the ones that are running away from having a conversation around, relationships and intercourse and all these intimate things, particularly with their children or the younger members of the family. So maybe you'll bring them some comfortability in having the conversation moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. It is true. And you must understand that the reason why that's happened is the way we were brought up. In that play, significant role in how we see the conversation around sex or sexuality. Most parents that we have now, when they were growing up, their parents didn't discuss that with them. Then we also have the religious and cultural dimensions to this. But we cannot raise children of 2024. In 2024, you cannot raise a child the same way you were raised in 1970 or in 1980 or even in 1990. But it's a different world. That world does not exist now. It's a different world.
Absolutely. And you talk about cultural norms in certain regions, maybe even discouraging open conversations between adults and adolescents or children about sex. I would even go, I feel like it's just a general thing within African and Eastern cultures.
Yes, it should be, but culture evolves. From one tribe to another, from one country to another, from one particular group of people to another. So usually there is this culture of silence when it comes to sex. Things like if we discuss sex with young people, that it's like we are encouraging them to go and practice whatever we discuss with them. And when you look at it from that point of view, you do not want to discuss it. And I think that is, especially religion too, they do not want to discuss about sex and sexuality with young people because of the fear that it's like you are initiating them to go and practice whatever you discuss with them. And that's prevent people from discussing this. Yeah.
And Ayobami, in fact, you say that extensive research actually shows that having these conversations, engaging in an open dialogue about sex and sexuality with one's parents is more likely to result in safer sexual practices.
Yes, absolutely, again, because contrary to the fear that when you discuss these issues with your children or with teenagers, that they will likely go and practice it. The research has shown that, a lot of studies have shown that it actually could result in a delayed sexual debut. It could result in a safer sexual practices like using of condom or even like using of contraception and a lot of other things that, young people will have confidence in you when they have this kind of discomfort or they do have a kind of uncertainty or an anxiety they can discuss with you rather than going to their friend or go to the internet to look for information that may not be correct or factually correct.
And I think, I remember reading somewhere in some academic books that part of sort of developing a society is also understanding that, for instance, where it comes to rearing children, information is often gotten from, either primarily from parents in the household. Second to that are the peer groups, friends, and people from school and campus. And also gotten from media, mass media, and the things that they consume. And ideally, I would think that, you would probably tell us that it's more advisable for them to have the family and the parents as the start point versus the secondary and the third source of information.
Yes, that is the purpose of actually the article that I wrote, because now if you look at, we are in information age, and that's a very good thing. So there's a huge access to information by almost everybody, including young people. But then that comes with certain consequences. When you have access to information, you have good information, and you have wrong information, you have contradictory or misleading information. And when you do not speak to your child about sex, it does not mean they are not going to get information about sex. They will get it, either from their friend, from the media, and now right under your roof, they have cell phone where they can access all this information. But the information that they will be getting there, are you sure it is virtually correct? Is it scientifically accurate? Is it age appropriate for them? These are the risks you do not want to take, because you as a parent, you have a duty to invest in them by actually talking to them about sex in a way that we help them to have a lot of positive sexual and reproductive outcomes, where they'll be able to make good decisions. They will have a enhanced personal efficacy or self-efficacy, where they'll be able to learn about refusal skill, communication skill, where they'll be able to learn about assertiveness. A whole lot of things to talk about, and even to create a kind of awareness. The child must know about his body. Don't call it any other name. If you want to talk about penis, call it penis. If it's vagina, call it vagina. Because if somebody touched that child in school or somewhere else, he or she know exactly what to tell you where it was touched. It's not going to call it any other, and that is going to be helpful. So these are the things that we need to address.
Absolutely. It's just gone 2:20, and we'd like your thoughts on this conversation. How are you as a parent? How comfortable are you talking to your children about sex and sexuality? Is it a conversation that's already on the table in your household right now? Because of the age where your children are at, it's something that is already being engaged on, or it's a conversation that you're not looking forward to having. Or you don't want to have it all. In fact, we'd love to know your thoughts on this one. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. If you want to send through your WhatsApp voice notes, 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on. Let's take a quick break and then we'll come right back.
Now, Varashe Marumo, one of your KNR presenters. If you are interested in anything sport, entertainment, and education, make sure you tune in to Kids Newsroom right here on ACBC2 every Monday at 4:30 p.m. You don't want to miss it.
The SAFM University Debate Challenge is back. Join us for the 1-hour debate on This Week Today with Oliver Dixon from 6 to 7 p.m. on Friday, the 10th of May 2024 at the SABC Auditorium in Auckland Park, Johannesburg. The University of Pretoria will take on the University of Witwatersrand in what promises to be a nail-biting debate. The SAFM University Debate Challenge is an independent, non-partisan progressive initiative seeking to develop confident communicators, critical thinkers, and empowered global citizens. If you want to attend the debate, you can email info@safm.co.za.
SAFM, leading the conversation.
Miss South Africa 2024 entries are now officially open. And if you're ready to answer the call and become the next Miss South Africa, Miss SA 2024, your time is now. Step into your power and embrace your future. And remember that entries close at 6 p.m. today. So log on to missa.co.za or download the Miss South Africa app and enter right now.
When it comes to good governance, you, the people of South Africa, deserve a leadership that you can trust. The IFE has vast experience at national, provincial, and local level. As the official opposition in KwaZulu-Natal, the IFE has a track record that speaks for itself. We all know that the ruling party has brought South Africa to this brink of disaster. They have lost our country's confidence. We need change. Now is time to back honest leaders. Leaders who build, leaders who serve, and leaders who put the people first. I'm Mangoso Tibutelezi, the founder of the IFP, asking you to partner with the people that you can trust. Vote IFP.
This political election broadcast was brought to you in terms of the CASA regulation governing the election period. The views expressed in this political election broadcast are those of the political party and not of the SABC.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
It is The Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, on SAFM. 0614104107 is our WhatsApp line, and 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on. Have you had a conversation around sex and sexuality with your children as yet, and how did that go? Is it something that you were prepared to do, to undertake as a parent and a guardian? Or did you find yourself on the back foot and quite reluctantly having the conversation? We'd love to hear your journey and your experience with this. And you can send us a voice note via our WhatsApp on 0614104107 or 086-000-2032. We are in conversation with Ayobami Adekola, who's a postdoctoral researcher from the University of South Africa. And he looked at exactly this, talking to teens about sex. And he's got some advice for parents on when, how, what to say, and why it's important to say the things that you do say in this conversation. I think the other thing, Adi Obame, that I'd like us to touch on is when we talk about sex and sexuality, and you say this, you say, what topics fall under the realm and the domain of sex and sexuality? Okay, I've never thought about it like that. Expand on that for us.
Okay, when you look at the topics that you can discuss with kids or with teenagers or with children right from age of 10 or even before then, I would say that you can talk about the body, the human body, human sexuality. You can talk about the communication skills, which is part of it, because a child must be able to talk about, must be able to engage with whoever when it comes to sexuality. You can talk about sexuality, about genders. We all grew up in an heteronormative environment where you just believe that there can only be like a man and a woman who can get engaged sexually. Or we have, when it comes to gender, we talk about binary mindsets where you think that it's male and female. Now, all these have changed, and you need to sensitize. You need to educate your child about tolerance, about acceptance, about respect. We also need to talk about sexual health, how to take care of themselves, about puberty when their body start changing because of the hormones, how to be healthy, how to take care of their private parts, how to and how to practice practice safer sex.
Yeah,
that's important. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, part of all this conversation also is maybe even parents sensitizing themselves as parents and guardians in understanding that, sex and sexuality, it's part of the natural process and development of a human being. And so it can't be treated as a conversation where at adolescence, you almost expect teenagers to be having raging hormones and confusion, and things are changing. And you went through it, and your mother and father, the grandparents, went through it. So allow the space to also have your kids express these things, right? Because I feel like sometimes as Africans, we want to pretend as though that part of human development is unnatural, when it's very much a very natural, healthy part of human development.
Yes. Like when a child as a teenager starts showing all the evidence that they want to engage in sexual activities and everything, these are natural phenomenon. These are natural things because it is hormone. And what we need to do as parents is, number one, to calm down their anxiety by educating them. People always fear what they do not understand. But if they seek knowledge which is available, especially I know at school, kids are being taught sexuality education in school, but like there are issues with that too when it comes to implementation. But when it comes to parental aspects, we need to reinforce the accurate message of sexuality education, like saying it is okay when you are gay and you start growing, your breasts start coming out or start growing. You are a boy, you start having sexual desires. These are normal feelings. But then you have to be responsible. You have to learn about relationships, and you have to learn about values, rights, and sexuality. And these are things that are very important so that they will not make or they will not engage in harmful sexual practices.
Absolutely. Let's take a quick pause here, but our lines are open on 061-410-4107, and we do see some of your WhatsApp messages, and 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on if you'd like to go live.
A very good afternoon. With the news headlines, Kemudupi Makhalemele. Western Cape Premier Ellen Wendy has thanked all those who've been assisting in the rescue and emergency response to the George Collapse building tragedy. President Cyril Ramaphosa has described the 30-year review of South Africa's democracy as an honest and critical appraisal of the country. And energy providers in Ukraine are warning that there could be power shutdowns across the country after Russia carried out another massive drone and missile attack in which transport and energy infrastructure were damaged. And those are your headlines. A full news update at the top of the hour.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
All right, let's go to WhatsApp and see what's on your mind.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Good afternoon, Bridget. It's here in Cape Town. Bridget, today we don't have a choice. We need to break the barrier. We need to break the taboo. We need to talk to our children without going too deep on that, but we need to talk to them. I know it's very uncomfortable. I also have a girl. And sometimes it's not easy when you try to talk about things like this. People can make it awkward, like people can make it like it's something inappropriate. But for our own sake as parents, we need to talk to our kids the danger of engaging in sex in a very, very young age, because the responsibility will end up come to their parent, especially when she's studying, the girl or the boy is studying. So we need to talk to them. It's here in Cape Town. Thank you.
Hello, Bridget and Dr. Ayo. I had a very interesting journey with my now 24-year-old, and that time he was 9. I bought him a book titled, I think, What Boys Need to Know, something like that. And I was hoping that it's going to help, but it didn't. But unfortunately enough, he was also in the boys' boarding school. And one of the teachers was his mentor. and he really, really helped me, to navigate those spaces. But then I didn't know where to start and what to do. And I thought perhaps maybe by reading the book with him, that could be helpful, and it was not. So just a question to Dr. Ayo, then what do you do if maybe you are a single mother and you have to navigate these spaces? This is Tipiso.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
And we are in conversation with Ayobami Adekola and, of course, with the University of South Africa. And we're having a look at this conversation, Doc. So that's the question that's on the table for you is, what do you do when you have to navigate this space? There's a lot of single moms raising children in single-parented households, but there's also a lot of single dads raising children. Some advice.
Okay, so most parents are not experts when it comes to these topics, actually, and that's fine. So what are you supposed to do? One, you do not need to portray yourself like you know everything to your child. You really need to, one, listen actively. When I say listen actively, I mean be in tune to whatever they have to say without judging them, without being dismissive. Try to understand what is the situation, what is going on with them. And when you do that, you're not the one talking. You actually want to hear them. And you also can probe to see what help do they need. How do they want you to come in and assist them?
Yeah.
Don't be prescriptive, like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Then in a situation where you are overwhelmed and you do not know what to do, so you can do a kind of, okay, tell the child, can we research this together? And when you do that, so it's like bonding moments where the child is going to study or read about it, you read about it, and then you come together. Another option is to refer the child to professionals, like it could be the school counselor who is trained to handle such questions. It could be medical practitioner or healthcare workers at the local clinics, or it could also be some NGO that work in the neighborhood around sexuality education or sexual and reproductive health and rights.
Yeah.
And so it's all depends. So there are so many options, but we must not shy away from it. It's something that we must actually embrace and say, okay, I want to help my son, I want to help my daughter. And really, it's an investment that we need to make, no matter how uncomfortable it is.
And maybe there's room there. I don't know if you would agree. Maybe there's room there for parents to also start looking at how they're parenting and the kind of relationships that they want to have with children or with their children. Because even if the subject is uncomfortable, primarily you want to create a home where it's safe enough and there's a relation and a connection enough between the members of the household that we can sit with uncomfortable conversations. And even if we're stumbling, even if you don't know what words you're trying to use, but the environment is sort of conducive and encouraged for us to have these conversations.
Yes, there's a room indeed to build trust, to bond together. The reason why young people will not want to talk to their parents about what they're going through is because they do not trust how you are going to react to whatever they say to you.
Yeah.
You come as a moral authority and say, hey, well, why are you doing that? But if they can trust you, if they can build trust with our kids, with our teenagers, where you can engage in a conversation that is judgmental free, that is empathetic, that is actually in tune with their feeling, and all you want to do is to make sure that they do the right thing, they thrive, and they have skills that are necessary for them to navigate that complex situation. So if they could see that kind of empathy from you, and they know you are not going to judge them, and remember that young people also look at what you say about other people. And that's why you must deal with our own biases too. Because why it doesn't even involve them, it could involve somebody in your neighborhood, and they look at your comments, how you react to it. So then when it's happened to them, they do not want to come to you because they could predict what you're going to say.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's important, that we that we not judgment, that creates a kind of a safe environment through which we can actually bond with kids and gain their trust, so that they can come to us and then we can talk to them and we can engage and guide them and instill good values on them. Yeah.
Absolutely. I want to go to a WhatsApp to hear more of what's on your thoughts this afternoon.
Hi, Bridget. Afternoon. In terms of when it comes to talking to children, for me, I found it very easy. I've got 3 daughters, 15, 9, and 4, especially the one that is 15. I remember asking the mother if she has already spoken to her daughter in terms of menstruations and the boys. The mother said no, she found it very difficult for her to speak to. But I found my way of talking to her, and if I can give you one example of how I started talking to her, you would laugh your lungs out. But yeah, I do speak to my daughters. Luckily, I'm comfortable. They are comfortable around me more than they are comfortable around their mom. So we talk everything with my daughters. So I have no difficulties. Bob, Cape Town.
Hi, Bridget. I understand life has changed since the past century, but I don't like it when people always say on radio, hey, Africa this, Africa that, Africa is still like this, Africa is still like this. I think there are better ways of expressing it and encouraging Africa to start discussing with our children. You see, we need to understand and appreciate cultural differences across the world, and no culture on earth is superior to the other. If the Western culture does that, then Africa should not be compelled to do that, but should be encouraged to do that. Thank you very much. This is Anonymous from Camberdown.
Afternoon, Bridget. Social media, radio, TV, magazines, friends are primary teachers of sex. So parents must sit down and talk about sex at an early stage, because these kids menstruate at an early stage. So, but step by step. You must not be harsh, you must be polite. Kids of today are very clever. What we must talk about it, because they will listen the outside teachers. Thank you, Bridget.
And as we wrap it up, thank you so much for your voice notes. As we wrap it up, Doc Ayobame, your final sort of parting shot for any parent or guardian that's listening?
Yeah, thank you. My advice would be like what most of the people that have sent in voice notes have said. They admitted that it is necessary, that it may be uncomfortable, but it's a discussion we need to have with our children. It's an investment in their future. We do not want to take any risk about this. This is not even about whether we are Africans or we are American. It is something that has been scientifically proven that when you engage about a conversation about sex with your children in a way that you guide them, you are instilling some values into them, skills into them, and you support them. It's a big investment that will lead to a lot of positive sexual and reproductive health outcome. So it's maybe uncomfortable, but we must embrace it. We must deal with it. We must have a way of navigating it, leveraging on every opportunity that we have at our disposal.
Absolutely. Dr. Ayobame, we appreciate the time with you today, and that was Ayobame Adekola. I hope you've heeded his advice today and you've put that on the table of casual conversations within your household. I once heard a child specialist say, if your child is old enough to ask you a question, they are old enough and ready enough to hear the truth. Obviously aware of what they're asking and how you frame it for age sensitivities, but don't lie to them, because if they can articulate what it is that they want to ask you, they are ready to hear the truth from you. Those are my words on this. I heard it from a child developmental specialist, and I always remember that. Let's take a quick break and then we'll come right back.
EFC is live this Thursday. Two grappling wizards will battle it out for the vacant welterweight title at EFC 113 as Gelson Souza and Zakir Banat fight it out for championship glory. Plus, Faiz Jacobs is out for revenge against the great Sylvester Chipumbu for #1 contendership. EFC 113 live this Thursday. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the first time in 30 years, the ANC is set to lose its majority. Opposition parties have united as the multi-party charter for South Africa.
A strong democratic alliance with a proven track record
Can anchor a new government that serves the people.
But a new government that works is only possible if you vote for it. Let's unite and rescue South Africa. Vote DA.
This political party advertisement was paid for by the political party concerned. The views expressed in this advertisement are those of the political party and not those of the SABC.
The Road Accident Fund will be announcing winners of the Road Safety School Competition and Youth Projects to be supported by the fund in October, or rather in August of 2023, my apologies. RAF launched a comprehensive road safety program for learners and, of course, for youth as well. And this program involved educating learners in primary schools and special schools and in high schools about road safety through talks, industrial theatre performances, and, of course, road safety simulations. And the event is going to be held in Durban this coming Friday on the 10th of May. And for more information, you can call RAF on 087 820 1111 or you can visit raf.co.za.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
Ashraf joins me in studio. How are you?
I'm very good, yeah.
Fantastic.
Good.
Do you have kids?
Yes, I do.
Did you have the bees and the bees and the birds conversations?
Long time ago. Don't even go there now, but no.
Was it comfortable or was it uncomfortable?
I think it's still uncomfortable even now. It never changes, does it? Yeah.
Okay, what's coming up today?
Well, I'll tell you what, there's so much. We could probably have a 6-hour show. So if you want to leave early, let me know, right?
Okay, let me pack my bags.
I mean, look at it. The Thabo Mbeki says the African Union is weak. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the DA advert again. Helen Ziller, we'll talk to her. We'll talk to the Kathrana Foundation. It's 30 years of democracy. We'll get a reflection on that with Azapo coming up shortly, as well as the tapping of cards. There's a whole scam about the credit cards that we use to tap.
Yeah?
You know, there's a massive scam around that one there. And my initial that's my point that I start with is this year. You know, what unites South Africans and what divides us. So you can think about all of that.
Yeah.
3 to 6 on the National Pulse.
I mean, there's a lot on that agenda today. The conversation's going all over the place. And my question still remains, was there no one in the room and is it too late to pull it? Because I also saw Minister Zizi saying he's contemplating taking further action.
But honestly, you know, there's also opportunism that's taking place on the other side.
Of course. But I'm just saying.
Let's hear Helen Ziller. She says they got what they wanted, which is massive talkability.
But is it the right talkability?
Well, I mean, my question to her is, would it get you more votes?
That's why. Well, is it the right talkability?
I doubt it very much.
Right? All right. That's coming up today on the National Pulse. So let's take a quick pause and then we'll come back and wrap it up.
The SAFM University Debate Challenge is back. Join us for the 1-hour debate on This Week Today with Oliver Dixon from 6 to 7 p.m. on Friday, the 10th of May 2024 at the SABC Auditorium in Auckland Park, Johannesburg. The University of Pretoria will take on the University of Witwatersrand in what promises to be a nail-biting debate. The SAFM University Debate Challenge is an independent, non-partisan progressive initiative seeking to develop confident communicators, critical thinkers, and empowered global citizens. If you want to attend the debate, you can email info@safm.co.za.
SAFM, leading the conversation.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
We are in the final moments of our show today, and even my crew is weighing in on the conversation around when to chat to your children around sex. And one of my cameramen was saying that the kids will catch you off guard. And I'm like, yes, they want to catch you in that state of relaxation. No one wants to have a conversation when you're saying, come, let's sit down and talk. Oh, Ma, can you imagine? You already think it's kulumangan, oh, gosh, like, what's going on? You know? So I must catch you when you are watching Sundowns and Kaizer Chiefs. And then I'll ask you my question, and then you have no choice but to answer. But as we wrap it up, Ulunga Ngala Ndlovu is a life coach, and Lunga joins me now to talk around, I guess a rather serious conversation in as far as how to cope with survivor's guilt or even survivor's remorse. And at times, individuals who've survived some kind of tragedy, whatever the tragedy may be, experience feelings of guilt. And they stem from the fact that they survived. They survived when others perhaps perished or harm came to others. And for them, they've come out unscathed or relatively unscathed. And it's something that I think probably a lot of people need to, have some kind of emotional understanding around. How are you doing this afternoon, Lunga?
Good afternoon. I'm doing very well, Bridget. Thanks for asking, and good afternoon to your listeners too.
Thank you so much for taking the time. All right. So how do we differentiate between just, what I guess we'd quote unquote call normal feelings of grief versus a survivor's guilt, for instance, after a very traumatic or emotional event?
Well, perhaps maybe that's how we can differentiate between the two is the one, of course, would be a normal emotional response and mental response to anything that's traumatic that has happened, and especially if it's pertaining to you, the individual. You go through the stages of grief and denial, and you go through the phases until you get to a place of acceptance and release. And then the other one, it's different because it didn't happen. One, it didn't happen to you. It happened either to someone else, and like you rightfully said, you survived it, or you were not even involved or anywhere close to that situation. So it's almost like empathy gone too far, and it goes to a place where now you want to somehow remove that experience from the person that you care for, or that this thing has happened to the extent where you feel guilty that you didn't go through something like this. In us as human beings, there's always this like innate feeling or desire to be a hero, and also a desire to help share grief and pain. Because you somehow, imagine when someone passes away, you go and hug them and say condolences on your loss, and you somehow then want to hug them and hold them tight enough so that that pain can be removed from them. In essence, there's nothing much that you can do or say to remove that pain.
Absolutely. And I think even when we talk about survivor's guilt, am I correct in understanding that it could potentially also be extended to even situations where perhaps you've come to a point of privilege and success, the concept of I made it out of the hood, and you sort of left others behind and had to selfishly choose your own path and your own trajectory, and ultimately when you look back, there's family members and friends, people you were close to that you started on a similar journey with that are still in the same place and haven't perhaps progressed or found the promised land and the successes that you have found.
Yes, I feel like, in my opinion, I think you be very, very correct. I'm not giving a clinical response, but I'm saying in my opinion, and also as a life coach, in dealing with different people with different traumas, and also in my own personal experience with trauma, there is that guilt and saying, "Oh man, I've made it past this traumatic experience." For example, I think I've shared in my last conversation with you on the station in the beginning of the year, I shared my walk with recovery, where I've been through something, but now that I have, made it across to the other side, I felt a bit guilty that someone else is going through something that I'm going through. And I somehow have to distance myself, because there is also a situation where I need to protect myself, because if I expose myself too much to the other side, I run the risk of falling back into old ways and old patterns and old behaviors. Something similar, like you say, with someone who's made it, like the analogy you use, someone who's made it out the hood and is now living in the burbs and living in a better, richer life. You can't really take your car and go and chill at the corner like you used to until very late in the hour in the evening, because you can run a risk of being robbed. You run a risk of also just alienating your current family because you can't go back home. So there's always that balance and always that growth that needs to take place. With every growth, there needs to be certain things that you need to shed off and leave behind. So similarly, when it comes to survivors' guilt, is that you somehow feel like you are okay, but your friend or a person that has gone through this traumatic experience is not okay. So you feel that if you pretend or assume their feelings of not being okay, that's going to help them, because you're wanting to align yourself. It's like there's a paradox. Like you somehow feel like I'm empathizing with them. I'll show them that I care. So I'm gonna cut myself too, like they are cut. Have the same scar as they have the scar, and that somehow that will heal them. And on the outside, it's a bit selfish. Also, it's a bit like self-righteous, that you feel that you need to take yourself to a place of hurt or sadness to help another person come up.
Let's talk also, Lunga, about perhaps some of the strategies that one can use if they are struggling with feelings or components of some kind of survivor's guilt. Anything that you could perhaps advise in as far as that? How do we begin to deal with it?
The first things first is allow yourself to feel what you're feeling. Allow yourself to go through. Do not stop resisting. Because another thing is whatever you resist persists, and if you resist those feelings of either guilt or pain or whatever, they grow and become bigger. So sit and allow yourself to feel what you feel. Give yourself. The second thing is to give yourself moments to have a bit of pleasure and joy. How by exposing yourself to people, because we tend to isolate when these kind of things happen. So surround yourself with one or two or three, if possible, or even more people that you can converse with. Share with them openly how you really are feeling. Because when a problem is shared, the problem is halved. And then the other one is try and do some bit of good to someone. When I say good, you don't have to go and go on a trip around the world in remote areas and help the hungry. What you can do is by picking up a phone and calling somebody to see how they are. You checking up on them, that's something that's good. And for a moment, you are outside of your own self and your feelings, and helping someone else. So those are the tactics. And then you can also and then trying to maybe eat well. Like, I know it's kind of hard to eat even at those moments, and trying to take yourself outside. There's something awesome about being outside in the garden. Take off your shoes if you can, walk barefoot, and if you pray, or write it down. There's garden pen and paper. There's quite a few things, but I think the few that I've shared, it should be something that you can just start acting on immediately.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just by way of maybe our last point, is there any way or sort of any mental framing as well? People talk about power in words, for instance.
Yes.
Anything that one could consider in as far as that is concerned?
The first thing is the mental power is sit down for a second and just think about it. Ask yourself a simple question: is there anything that I could have done to either avoid the situation? And if generally the answer is no, because some of these things that happen are outside of our control.
Yeah.
It's life happening. And then the second thing you can then ask yourself, I ask myself questions, a series of questions, because in the mind will search for answers, and once you search for those answers, there's a bit of relief. And ask yourself questions. After you ask yourself, is there anything I could have done? And ask yourself, is this my fault? Is it a fault of mine? Is it an act or something I said that could have, changed things? Normally, the answer is no. There's nothing that you could have done. And then that automatically starts maybe like releasing a bit of the pressure that you've put into yourself. And then it's a repetition. You feel good for the first 5 minutes, and then maybe go back to the old feelings of carrying the guilt and the shame. But you keep repeating it. You keep repeating it. You keep repeating it, like a mantra.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's advisable to find another living, breathing human being that you can share this with, in a vulnerable state, or in a very honest state. And if you're angry, allow yourself to be angry and vent out. So those are the mental things you can do.
Awesome. Lunga, we appreciate the time and, of course, the life coaching tips when it comes to this conversation. That was Lunga Qala Ndlovu. And that is how we wrap up the show from our end today. Ashraf is coming through with his team in just a matter of seconds, and they're going to be with you until 6 o'clock. From us, we'll see you tomorrow. Inshallah, God willing, we get to do it again.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation.
I'm Michelle Constant. Join the JSB crew and I every Saturday and Sunday morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We promise to keep you informed and entertained with innovation, culture, cars, travel, life learnings, environment, and of course, your big fat juicy. Small stories, big ideas, massive inspiration. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAFM.
Stories at 3 o'clock. Premier thankful for the George building collapse response and attack could result in power shutdown in Ukraine. A very good afternoon. Western Cape Premier Ellen Windy has thanked all those who've been assisting in the rescue and emergency response to the George collapsed building tragedy. Besides the first responders, community members, businesses, churches and individuals have stepped up to assist. They're providing food, water, and even counseling to the rescue workers and the family members of those affected. Wendy says he's grateful for everything they've done.